Hello and welcome to Off the Bench. I'm back. Trace has been in all week long, and maybe I'm not the face you want to see here, but I was talking with Trace, and he said he has to personally see to it going down to Great American Ballpark today to bring home the Reds a win. So he's heading down there. I'm doing the show today. You might get back and forth. All right? When there's a lot of Bengals topics going to come in here, I'll be in here. When there's a lot of Red stuff, he'll probably be in here. But for today, he's got to personally see to it that the Reds bring home a win against the Pittsburgh Pirates and salvage one game in this series. But as always, Stone Shield is in the producer seat. His last day of the week on the show. Casey will be back tomorrow, presumably. Indeed. Stone, how are you?
I'm phenomenal. How are we doing? I guess I'm not fully phenomenal after what transpired late last night, but I'm doing all right. I'm still optimistic.
You should be still optimistic. You should still be optimistic. And I know that things aren't great right now, right? I understand fully that you're riding the high of a 4-game series against the Chicago Cubs. You sweep, you get the final wild card spot, and then you play two games in a row against one of the worst teams in the National League, the Pittsburgh Pirates, and you're hoping that, hey, we can continue to build. You hold control of your own destiny. You drop 2 in a row. I can't sit here and give solutions. You don't want to hear my solutions anyways. You don't want to hear my opinions or overly opinions about the Cincinnati Reds. I can't provide, hey, who should we bat in the 3-hole? Who should be starting tonight? Why did we put this guy in the 7th inning to pitch? I'm not going to do that. What I can offer is this. I can't offer perspective right now. And you might not want to hear this. Let me tell you a story about home life, right? About perspective that I often tell my wife. She's all stressed out. We've recently heard big news. I don't know if I've released it on this show. I think I said on the Bengals Watch Along. But we're going to be having our first baby this winter, and we're very, very excited. And she's got all this pent-up anxiety about, getting the nursery ready. This house isn't ready. Our kitchen, we've been remodeling it for 3 years. And, she's worried. And then she's like, what happens if the baby's sick? What happens if all these things that can really build up anxiousness. And that's where the Reds fans are at right now. You're building up all this anxiousness about because you had control of your own destiny and you let it slip through your fingers against the Pittsburgh Pirates. But here's the perspective that I texted my friends last night, and I'll tell it to you guys right here. Once again, you might not want to hear this, but I like perspective. What a blessing it is to feel this emotional for your favorite baseball team to elicit this kind of a reaction. And I'm not saying that with tongue-in-cheek. I'm not saying that prodding, poking, anything like that. I'm truly being serious. What a blessing it is to have a ball club, a hobby, and that's what sports are. They're a hobby. They're a way that you spend time, spend your money, outside of work, outside of family. This is what I want to do. To have this elicit the kind of reaction that you felt in the 9th inning with Tyler Stephenson, that you felt in the first 8 innings, that you felt throughout the extra innings yesterday, and that you're feeling right now. And I told that to my wife when she's all worried about things around the house. I'm like, hey, what a blessing it is to have this kind of stress. What a blessing it is that we have a home, have a couple cars, that we're in love, and we're going to have this little bundle of joy here soon. What a blessing it is to be this emotionally invested into a hobby this point of the season. What a blessing it is to get to go down to Great American Ballpark the last 2 nights. They've had decent crowds, good crowds, 30,000. I don't know what the official number was yesterday. Probably be down considerably based off the weather and based off that it's a day game today. But, go down here for the day game and a chance to get right back in the thick of things and put a lot of pressure on the New York Mets tonight, who are going to be playing in front of 40,000 fans with a rookie on the mounds. It's just perspective that, at the end of the day, this is incredibly exciting time to be a Reds fan. It's not what you want over the last 2 nights, but you still got a lot to look forward to for the final 4 games. All right. When I talk about the kind of reaction, the kind of emotion that this team can kind of elicit. I think, too, that ninth inning, and I had friends down at Great American Ballpark yesterday, and they were telling me, like, this team, this stadium is looking for a chance to just explode. And Tyler Stephenson provided that. Came up in the ninth inning. You know, Stephenson, who had a great year last year, has had a up and down season this year, probably had the best game of his career yesterday, certainly at the biggest moment, 4-hit game. Comes up with the game-tying home run in the ninth, and it sounded like a playoff atmosphere, something that we haven't experienced in this town regarding the baseball team in years. Some might even say decades. The fans were clamoring for it, beckoning for it, and they got it. That specific moment is exactly what it's going to feel like if the Reds can make something happen in these final 4 games. Whether it be today during the day game, whether it be this weekend. Probably got to win 3 out of the last 4. Got to take a series against the Brewers. Got to take a game here tonight or today against the Pittsburgh Pirates. But one of the truly monumentous moments in the 23-year history of Great American Ballpark. One of the coolest moments. And I know it ended up not meaning much. It's still an L, still a loss. But that's why we're sports fans at the end of the day, is for moments like that. Stone, sitting in your palatial estate in Mousetown, Ohio, watching that game. Excited for he hates when I poke fun. But take me through the emotions of watching that home run go over the wall.
Yeah, I mean, it was, the game kind of transpired the way that I thought it would for the beginning of the game. I didn't think the Reds would touch Skenes. I was honestly surprised that they even had a couple of opportunities to score off him. But kind of being down 1 or 2, I kind of felt like that was going to be the situation when the starters left. I think the starters maybe left the game a little bit earlier than some of us anticipated with Hunter Greene. Again, he was really solid. I think the second run, TJ Friedel misplayed it in the outfield. There was a play that South Stewart could have made. Will Benson kind of had an opportunity to make a play at the plate. Was kind of in slow motion seemingly as he got it to the plate. So they're down 2. Did a nice job of fighting back. Noelvi gets you back in the game, but you're kind of just sitting there like, I don't know if we can get that second run. And then Tyler Stephenson steps up, and I was jumping around my basement. I was doing circles around the basement. It was absolutely awesome when he did it. By the way, he's getting rewarded for his performance last night by not being in the lineup today. Trevino is catching, so that's a bit of a head-scratcher there. But, extra innings, that's kind of been, what has killed this team all season. If there's just a handful of games, I don't have the numbers right here in front of me, but the extra innings numbers this year are absolutely dreadful. If there's just a couple of more that you can find a way to win, obviously we're not even in this spot, and we feel a heck of a lot more comfortable than we are, but extra innings has been the Achilles heel of this team, and that kind of reared its ugly head once again last night. But you can't sit there and stew on it. You can't sit there and complain about it because you got to play in a couple hours. And the Cubbies helped you out last night, and the Dodgers helped you out as well. So really you're kind of back to where you were, even if there were no games played yesterday, despite the heartbreak. So lots of emotions, but another opportunity here today in a couple hours.
Yeah, it's nothing changed. The only thing that's changed is the goal at the end of the season got 1 day closer. So your chance to make up more ground got 1 day closer, but you're still in the exact same spot that you were yesterday. And it's funny that we get here and everyone's toying with me, but the Reds, they got a chance here at 12:40. Nick Lodolo is going to go on the bump. He's been bad in 3 of his last 4 games. He's going to go up against Braxton Ashcraft, who hasn't gone deep. He's thrown well this year, but I've seen Braxton Ashcraft throw a few times. He's got some good stuff, but he doesn't go deep into the game, so you got an opportunity to at least, take your pitching staff better. Nick Lodolo has, this is the most innings he's ever thrown in a season, and everyone was worried about that. And he hasn't pitched well as of late, but maybe he'll have a heroic time on the bump today in his final start of the regular season. It's funny you mentioned the extra innings record, and I don't have it in front of me either, but it's very pitiful to a point where you fully understand why this team, if they don't make the postseason, you understand why that's the case. And it's I'm a Tito supporter. I'm a Tito believer. I'm a believer in strong leadership matters. I know there's a lot of people in baseball fandom that they lean towards analytics. And listen, I'm an analytical guy too when it comes to baseball. But I also understand that human beings feed off of good leadership. And the mantra of the Cincinnati Reds is we're going to play small ball and all this stuff. And the reason that they do that, if you guys – you understand this, is because they have great pitching and they don't have a highly potent offense. So they're figuring out, hey, we're going to be a run prevention team and we're going to, manufacture runs. Objectively funny. I think objectively, or at least it's ironic that the team that, focus itself on being that run prevention team and we're going to win small ball, we're going to bunt, situational hitting, all that stuff is bad when the situations are at their highest extra innings. And it'd be like having a smash mouth football team. We're going to run the ball. We're going to have, sloppy games. We want to win like Iowa Hawkeyes do. We want to win 10-7. Or in the NFL, we want to win 17-13. And, in one-score games, you are 1-5. It's like that. It's similar to that. And that's the thing about when you're a team like the Cincinnati Reds, a small market team, you got to win on the margins. You've got to be able. It's the Miami Marlins went to the playoffs 2 years ago, and it was a large part because they had an incredible record in one-run games. And as we know, one-run games, they come and they go, right? One season you'll be great at it, one season you'll be terrible at it, and it's just kind of how the game works out. It all evens itself out. Unfortunately, this year, the Reds aren't there. Not doing well in extra innings. They're not doing well in one-run games. But it is ironic because that's kind of what the mantra of the team is, or Terry Francona, that's what he tries to instill in this team. A few things I want to talk about the game last night, Stone. Your thoughts on Noelvi Marte swinging at that 3-1 pitch, bases juiced in extra innings, down a run, especially with a pitcher on the mound that had been struggling to throw strikes at that point.
It's not why you lost the game. Bases loaded. I don't want the mindset of your number 2 hitter that had gotten hot late in the game, right? He really struggled those first couple at-bats, especially against Skenes, were pretty ugly, but he got hot later in the game. I want him, being aggressive, not just trying to walk. Looking back at it, is it a borderline, pitcher's pitch maybe? Sure. But that's not why you lost the game. My biggest gripe about it is, why is Matt McLain – there were so many opportunities for him to get pulled and for somebody to hit for Matt McLain, and they refused to do it. Obviously, Tito's all about the defense, which if that was the case, then, Key Bryan, why is he just, coming in the game for an inning? I get the bat for Key Bryan's been awful. It's kind of a whole different story. But McLain had the nice play. He was positioned well. The liner up the middle, gets the double play. That was a huge double play. But, just the type of at-bats that Matt McLain has had. And I'm not going to say he's a bust and he's completely done. We've seen him play good baseball in the past, but this year clearly not Matt McLain's year. And the at-bats that he had last night and the at-bats that he had 2 nights ago, he shouldn't have been up there in those late-game spots. It took forever for Andujar to get an opportunity. I get it. He struck out. It was an incredible at-bat. I don't know how many pitches he fouled off, but it was a lot. He's finally getting an opportunity to start today. But I'm not mad necessarily at Noelvi Marte for swinging at it. Yeah, hindsight, you would like to, take that pitch and see where you're at with the full count. But at the end of the day, you had opportunities. It's a team that you should be better than. And at the end of the day, you were not able to capitalize on all those opportunities. Weathered the storm with Paul Skenes. That was going to be the hardest part of the game. You weathered the storm, had opportunities after that, and weren't able to execute.
Yeah, I saw some people on Twitter. I was hopping in the Chatterbox Reds chat last night, and people were talking about how Noelvi Marte shouldn't have swung at that 3-1, which I completely disagree with. It's a pitch in the middle of the zone. It's a pitch you should swing at with the bases juice. You can't expect in Major League Baseball, you can't expect the other team to just give you a game, even a team as bad as the Pittsburgh Pirates. You can't just passively try to win games. You've got to go and take it against other professional teams. Noelvi Marte should swing at that pitch. He just – it was way too early on it and just yanked it and didn't get a good swing on it. It's a good pitch to hit. He just didn't swing at it. You can't expect them to just, hand you the game. You've got to go and take it. You mentioned Matt McLain. A lot of people talking about Matt McLain and how poorly he played yesterday. And some people were like, should Matt McLain play? Should Sal Stewart play second base? Should Santiago Espinal play second base? To me, from the outside, we can talk about Matt McLain, whether he should play or not. If there was an answer for someone else to play, because Matt McClain is what? I think dead last and WP or win probability added. He's near the bottom of qualified hitters in terms of OPS and OPS plus. Like, those things are very well true. And if you're thinking, how can you not get worse? Santiago Espinal is literally right there. So you're going to be pretty much getting the exact same player. And Sal Stewart, I don't think, can play second base, and I don't think this team will ever. It doesn't seem likely that this team's going to sacrifice that much defensively to move Sal Stewart at second base. So it's just like the point is there's no clear answer. If there was a clear answer, someone else would be playing there, right? It's the same thing that I've said about Elly De La Cruz and playing shortstop after the year that he's had. Like, if there was, an heir apparent to play shortstop, Elly De La Cruz would probably move positions based off the season he's had defensively. But there isn't. Same with Matt McClain out there at second base. Like, there's no heir apparent. There's not an easy solution there. So you're just going to keep riding the two-time first-round pick, Matt McClain, who had, a 4.5 WAR season, 4 WAR season 2 years ago before he got hurt. And he's been playing well in the second half of the season. One of the better hitters on the Reds lineup in the second half of the season. Just clearly did not have a good game last night. We're going to get to it in a second. We do have some mailbags later on. We'll get to those here in a few moments. Some people wrote into the show. Thank you so much. We did that segment last week. You guys had fun. We're going to talk a lot about the Bengals because I feel like you guys want to I don't know if you guys just want to forget about what happened the last 2 nights with the Reds, but there is some Bengals talk that we can get into. I've got a hypothetical trade scenario that I think I've pitched to Stone. I've pitched to other Bengals fans. It has not been well received by any stretch of the imagination. It probably won't be well received from you guys either, but we will get to that later. Stone, your thoughts on Matty McClain? Should he be starting tonight? The lineup came out. He is in the lineup, presumably, right?
He's not.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yes.
So he's not in the lineup today.
Yeah. Matt McClain not in the lineup. They're going to go with Gavin Lux, who obviously his bat has been in the lineup, but his glove has not. Clearly, Matt McClain, the better defensive second baseman. You could even call Gavin Lux a borderline liability there at second base, but you had to make a move, right? You had to get McClain's bat out of the lineup. You got several guys, obviously, in this lineup that have struggled to hit the baseball. My issue last night, and I get Sal Stewart made several good plays at third base, but I just kind of found myself holding my breath throughout the majority of that game with Sal Stewart down to third base. I get Ke'Bryan Hayes has not gotten a hit in who knows how long. He's back in the lineup today. I know he has the back. He's not fully healthy, whatever, but you traded for him for a reason. All right, he's a platinum glove type of player, and in a game that you knew was going to be low scoring last night with Greene and Skenes, I would have had Ke'Bryan Hayes down at third base, and then you could make the argument of, well, maybe you need Sal Stewart to be the DH, but, Tito loves Gavin Lux, and it's a right-handed pitcher, and Lux is a left-handed bat. I get it. There's a bunch of different ways that you could play this, but basically the point I'm trying to make is I think Tito goes with McClain at second because of defense, but then he went away from Ke'Bryan Hayes at third base last night in what was going to be a low-scoring game, and obviously there was a play that Sal Stewart could have made that could change the outcome of the game. So it was time for McClain to sit down. We'll see if Gavin Lux can handle his business defensively at second base. Glad Ke'Bryan's back in the lineup. But at this point, every single thing that Tito does obviously is going to be criticized, and especially when you lose 2 games. And if they lose again today, then, the whole thing kind of goes up in smoke a little bit. But had to sit McClain down today just based off the at-bats. It'd be one thing if he was fouling a ton of pitches off, had competitive swings, hitting the ball hard. Really hasn't been the case the past 2 nights.
Yeah, wasn't close. Sometimes it's hard to see whether a hitter is going through it or not, but oftentimes you can just tell by their approach at the plate. Man, they're just not seeing it well. No confidence, not seeing the ball well, whatever the reason is, just doesn't have it today. And sometimes you go up there and it feels like you can throw anything at you, and I'm going to put it in the gap. And that's just not the case with Matty McClain. They play today at 12:40. I believe that's the start time. Nick Lodolo versus Braxton Ashcraft. I will be interested to see if there's a larger contingency down there at Great American Ballpark. Being a day game, they typically get nobody there. For the businessman special, they might get a few more fans there today. It's been pretty good crowds the last few nights. I think that the Reds fans, I will admit this. I think there's going to be a learning curve when there is a bigger crowd there because it takes a second for the stadium to fill up, because probably fans are just used to showing up at the stadium and walking straight in. All of a sudden, when there's 30,000 people showing up at the stadium, you realize it takes a little longer to get to your seat. So I think there's going to be there's been a little bit of a learning curve. Like, hey, we probably got to get there like 15 minutes earlier than we typically get there. I know I'm typically, when I go down to a Reds game, I get there. If the game's at 7:10, I show up. I'm pulling into the parking garage at 7 o'clock, and you might miss a few pitches, but you're going to be there by the bottom of the first inning. So I think there's been a little bit of a learning curve. I'll be interested to see what the crowd is today. But we mentioned it. There's been some mailbag. There's been some questions that people that have been watching this show. This was a very popular segment last week. We're going to do it again. So we had some people mail in, send some DMs to the show, and they want to hear our opinions. So, Stone, if we can go ahead and wrap up the mailbag or start up the mailbag.
All right, here we go. First mailbag question here on today's show is from AJ Worse, a very loyal viewer of what we're doing
Very
here
loyal viewer.
at Off the Bench. He says, "Dear blonde-headed regime on Off the Bench, I've long been a supporter of both the Castellini and the Brown family. Wow. In fact, I couldn't imagine better ownership groups for our sports teams in this town. The cap has allowed the Brown family to put competitive teams out on the field for the last 2 decades. Do you think a cap or even a salary floor would help with competitive balance in Major League Baseball? P.S. Only nice things to say about the content from Chatterbox Sports." Appreciate that question, AJ.
That is true. AJ is always saying just constantly nice things about the content here from Chatterbox Sports. I didn't know that AJ was a big supporter of the Brown family and the Castellini group. But hey, good for you. Do I think that a salary cap or a salary floor, which it seems increasingly likely we are going to get one of those in Major League Baseball going forward? I'll start with this. I don't think the competitive balance issue is as big as others. I think that, preseason we were talking, is this Dodgers team going to win 120 games because they've been able to, commit $1.5 billion or whatever the crazy number of money that they've been able to commit to free agent signings over the past few years. Yeah, it's not fair that they can do that. But do I think that there's a huge competitive balance issue in Major League Baseball? I truthfully don't. There's a chance in which I think 11 of the 15 National League teams end with 80 wins. Like, that seems like everything's pretty close. There's not a team that's going to win 110 games this year. I think the Brewers are the only team that has a shot to win 100. I don't even know if they have a shot to win 100. Like, there's only going to be like 4 teams that win 90 games. So, like, these teams are sitting right around 75 to 85 or 88 wins. Like, it's that there's not a huge delta between the top teams and the bottom teams. Even the Reds are fighting with the New York Mets, who just committed $700 million, whatever it was, to Juan Soto this year. So I don't think the competitive balance issue is as big as others see it as. I will admit this. There is some. Like the fact that the Dodgers every year, the Yankees every year, the Mets probably going forward every single season will be in playoff contention is a direct correlation, not just, and I think the Dodgers, there's maybe no better team in baseball than the Dodgers at, developing talent. There's a direct correlation between the money that they've spent and constantly competing for a championship. Now, I don't think that money equals championships. We haven't seen that. The Yankees have been spending money for the last 25 years. They got one championship to show for it. The Dodgers have been spending money for the last 20 years. They've got 1.5 championships to show for it. COVID only counts if it's your team. In short, I don't think the competitive balance issue is as big as other people see it in Major League Baseball. That's my personal opinion on the matter. But I do admit that if they put a salary floor pushing, the bottom teams like the Pittsburgh Pirates to commit more money to their franchise, I think that's a good thing. I also admittedly see that a salary cap would likely help these bottom tier teams compete more frequently, and you don't just have to wait for the perfect storm of prospects to kind of go all in for it, a la the Kansas City Royals in the mid-2000s, and you don't flounder like the Baltimore Orioles have this past year when they have a good crop of young talent. So Yes, I think it'll help competitive balance, although I don't see it as big of an issue in Major League Baseball as others. Your thoughts, Stone?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, to be honest with you. I think it's easy to sit there and say, only a handful of teams can win. It's not fair. But to your point, I mean, the Dodgers obviously won last year, won the COVID year. The Yankees spend a ton of money. The Mets spend a ton of money. They don't win. So, and think about the teams that don't necessarily spend a bunch. Tampa, they were in they're competing always seemingly a little bit off this year, but years in the past, Tampa's always been a really good team. So I agree. It's not perfectly balanced. It's not the NFL, right? Would it be cool to have it where literally all 30 teams had a chance to win the World Series at the beginning of the year? Yeah, maybe, but I don't think it's as big of an issue as other people think. And one question for you before we move on to our next mailbag question. On opening day, 30 teams obviously in Major League Baseball. How many do you think have an actual chance at winning the World Series on opening day?
6 or 7, but yeah. I would ask the exact same question about football that, you have this huge competitive thing.
Yeah.
Everyone admits that the NFL is competitive. It is every single week. We just saw the Cleveland Browns, who are going to be a top 5 pick more than likely this year, just beat the Green Bay Packers, who are probably going to be playing for the NFC Championship at the very least. They're going to be in the playoffs. So that happens in football. But in football, I can also look at the team and go like, hey, I don't think more than 6 teams have a chance to win the Super Bowl. I can't remember the last team that surprised me to win this. The Philadelphia Eagles with their backup quarterback, Nick Foles. Before that, I can't remember one. In baseball, you do have these improbable teams, like the Washington Nationals 2019. Or the Kansas City Royals were good the year before. They went to the World Series the year before. But, yes, there's only a handful of teams. More than half of them start the season not with a real shot to win the World Series. But I would argue the exact same thing for literally every other sport. We can sit here and look at the Denver Broncos that went 10-7 last year. They were in the playoffs, but we all knew they were going to get smoked in the first round, and they did. Same with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think if you make the postseason in baseball, you have a way better shot than being the final wild card team in the NFL.
Agreed. All right, next question here.
Before you get to this, Tasden Bailey said that AJ did not write that question.
What?
Yeah, I can't believe that. AJ wrote that question.
Yeah.
This is the mailbag.
Yeah. Come on. We wouldn't just mess with you on that. All right. Next question here from the Real Spirit Cat. Ooh. Hey, yo. It's your boy, the Real Spirit Cat. The Reds are in contention to make the playoffs. Let's run a hypothetical. Say the Reds make the playoffs and beat the Dodgers in the wild card series. What do you think the price of a playoff ticket would be at Great American Ballpark? P.S. I'm not a spirit or an actual cat. I'm a person.
Wow, that's cool. You learned something new. You're the Real Spirit Cat, but you're a real person. I don't know. This is a good question. I've wondered this. So let's do the hypothetical, right? Reds, rattle off 3 of these last 4. They get in the postseason. They then take down the Los Angeles Dodgers, who are seemingly going to be the team that they would play if they make the postseason. Take them down in a 3-game series, all in LA, and you come back from the NLDS, which would be only 2 games. In the NLDS, I think it'd be games 3 and 4 at Great American Ballpark. What would the get-in price be for that game? That is a great question because, the vibes would be so high. That they went on this miracle run at the end of the regular season. Then they beat the preseason favorite Los Angeles Dodgers in 2 or 3 games. They would go take on the Philadelphia Phillies in the first 2 games in Philadelphia, come home. Obviously, if they're down 2-0, the tickets are going to go down quite considerably. A standard get-in price for a Bengals game is around $100+, like $115. So I would be willing to bet that the get-in price of Game 3 of the NLDS against the Philadelphia Phillies for the Reds that just took down the Dodgers would be at least $125 to $130. Your thoughts, Stone?
Yeah, I really have no clue. And obviously, we haven't been in this spot since 2012. So I think it would probably be a little bit less than that, to be honest with you, but I don't know. I mean, you're right. The vibes. I mean, if you beat the Dodgers, This isn't like, oh, what would the tickets be if, you were in the wild card series as the last wild card. This is like you beat the Dodgers, and, they're the World Series favorite. Maybe they won it last year, obviously. So, yeah, would it get to triple digits? I don't know. For the very top.
Get in price. Yeah, we're talking get in price.
Yeah. My guess would say like.
Still under 100?
Yeah. I think probably in the 90s. But I got no clue.
It also depends on time of day.
Yep.
There's a really good chance that for that Game 3 NLDS, which by the NLDS, they're not playing the day games, right? I forget if they play day games for like Game 3. Like I know they stagger it, so like the NL plays one day and the AL plays one day, but every once in a while they mesh, and then you have the day games. If it's a day game, it's under $100. And if there was a day game to be played in the playoffs, the Reds would be that team that would play the day game. I would think that it's over $100. Alex Wallace said $400 get in price. I think that's not that high. That's not that high. That'd be World Series price tickets. Even like the NLCS, I don't think would get that high. But I think 120 get in price, especially if they win a game in Philly. Like they're coming back Game 3 and it's 1-1, and you got a chance to take the series lead. And I think these are all contributing factors. But it's a fun hypothetical, I think, is because we haven't seen this since 2012. 2012 was the last time. Game 5 was the last home playoff game for the Cincinnati Reds, which that was a day game. Those tickets were cheap enough that a bunch of my friends went down to the game. I asked my dad, who I always talk about being this big Reds fan. He was also big on like, you go to work, you go to school, yada, yada, yada. And like 8 of my friends all went to this game, skipped school early, and I asked my dad, hey, all my friends are going down to Game 5. The Reds are playing the Giants. It's a big game. And my dad just point blank said, no, you're not going. I was like, all right, well, I didn't get to go to that one.
Yeah, I was there. Heartbreaking. Devastating.
Tough.
Yeah.
Tough.
All right.
$10. Alex Wallace said you could get into that Game 5 in 2012 for $10.
Is that true?
That is wild. I like to tell people, like, talking about ticket prices and how much they've changed. I went to Game 1, Week 1 of the Bengals, like, opening game against the Minnesota Vikings the year we went to the Super Bowl. I got tickets, like, walking into the stadium for $12. Walking into the stadium for $12. Crazy to think about. Go on.
Next question here from our good friend Blackmore. Dear Reedstone and the rest of the Chatterbox crew, where would the Reds be at had they got Trevor Bauer? Go Michigan Wolverines. Your dearest friend Blackmore.
Blackmore wants to know where the Reds would be if they got Trevor Bauer. Man, I didn't know we were going to be doing a Trevor Bauer segment on September 25th in the year of our Lord 2025. Here's my opinion on the Trevor Bauer thing. I think he got blackballed. I think it's pretty clear that he got blackballed by Major League Baseball. I think that a good reason why he got blackballed is because he was a terrible teammate to pretty much in a terrible – it was a terrible teammate pretty much everywhere he went. Garrett Cole in UCLA obviously there's much to do about how Garrett Cole hated him and, his entire UCLA teammates hated him. There's that mixtape that he dropped when he got traded. He dropped a mixtape when he gets drafted by the Arizona Diamondbacks. He makes a rap where he disses Miguel Montero, the starting catcher and kind of like the franchise player other than Paul Goldschmidt for the Diamondbacks at the time, and disses, I think it was Torey Lovello. No, is he their current manager? Whoever it was, the Diamondbacks manager at the time. He drops a diss track about him. And then they're like, all right, well, we got to trade you now. Like, we can't have you dropping raps, dissing our franchise player and our manager. So they trade him. Obviously, there's that big moment right before he gets traded away from the Guardians where he throws it over. Like, every step along the way, he burned every bridge and wonders why he can't get back across the river, I guess is what I'm saying. Yes, he got blackballed. Yes, he got a terrible shake, but he didn't do himself any favors in the process along that. So where would the Reds be with Trevor Bauer? As I'm pretty sure he floundered in whichever professional league he was playing in this year. I think they'd be in a worse spot if he was taking the ball every fifth day. But Trevor Bauer didn't do himself any favors. I don't know if you even want to touch that one with a 10-foot pole, the Trevor Bauer situation, Stone.
The COVID year was fun. He pitched great, but he's an idiot. And, yeah, probably a good thing that he left the team.
It is wild that people forget the diss track. I was you probably never even heard that story.
Never, nope, first time.
Did you know about him in, his troubles with Garrett Cole at UCLA?
No.
Apparently everyone in the UCLA had this really good baseball. Garrett Cole obviously was the first overall pick, second overall pick, something like that. Everyone at UCLA hated him. But yeah, he had to get traded away from the Diamondbacks because he wrote a diss track about Miguel Montero and their manager. Wild. I don't think you can find it anywhere online anymore, but you can still find the articles about it. Yeah. Next mailbag.
All right, final question here on today's mailbag is from Haro. Dear off the bench, it's growing incredibly hard to be optimistic about the future of the Cincinnati Bengals. It seems they've continued to miss on draft picks. They've let great talent walk, and Joe Burrow seems to always be hurt. Do you think it's time to start looking at alternative routes going forward for the Bengals franchise? P.S. Thank God for Tito. The Reds would be nothing without him.
I agree, Haro. The Reds would be nothing without Tito Francona. Do the Bengals need to start looking at alternative routes for their franchise going forward? This is a good question that can segue us into this hypothetical trade that I'm going to bring up that I'm going to finish the show with, and we got to get through buy or sells to do this. I'll tease it saying this. The route had always been, for the last 4 years, we've got this elite quarterback in Joe Burrow that we know can win playoff games. We know can go toe-to-toe with the best quarterbacks in the league, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. And when you have one of those, you hold on to him and you don't let him go. Every time he's out on the field, the Bengals got a shot. The problem is he's not out on the field a whole lot. And he's going to miss 3 months at the minimum. Maybe he'll miss the entire season. So how can you build a franchise going forward not knowing if your whole route won't even get a chance to play? It's a fair question. It's a fair question that I'm gonna talk about later on here. But thank you everyone for those mailbags. Those are real emails and DMs that me and Stone both get. We get them almost every single day. We curate them, and we pick out the best ones, and we prop them on the show. And this will be a segment that we're going to do going forward. So thank you all for those mailbags. It's one of our favorite moments of the week. Yeah. All right, so we've got another segment for you guys. It's buy or sell here in the final 20 minutes. Before we get to that, we got to hear a word from our sponsors. Of course, the Job Center is now hiring. Start working fast with weekly pay, flexible shifts, and great opportunities at top local employers. Apply in person at any location across 12 states or online at thejobcenter.com. Light up your events with Queen City Screens. Our cutting-edge LED video boards deliver vibrant visuals and crystal clear displays for any occasion. From concerts to corporate events, we've got you covered. Visit queencityscreens.com to rent your LED solution today. Queen City Screens, where brilliance meets impact. Cincinnati Bengals will play on Monday against the Denver Broncos. The spread has gotten to 7 points. It has fluctuated. It's not a full 7.5. There is no longer a hook. It is just a touchdown. Last time I checked, it might have changed since then. These things move around. Buy or sell, Stone. Let's dive right in.
All right, first buy or sell on today's show. Bengals should seek other options at quarterback.
So this is a big thing. I mean, you get on Twitter and you can't help but see all the part of my takes, things about how the Bengals should go get Jameis Winston. We put out a video of should they go get Andy Dalton. Russell Wilson's been benched. Should the Bengals go get Russell Wilson? Kirk Cousins, what's going on in Atlanta? Should they go get Kirk Cousins? Point blank, I'm selling this. Jake Browning, I've been very, very critical of. 8 turnovers in 6.5 quarters as the starting quarterback so far for the Cincinnati Bengals. 3 of them are fumbles that he can't control. But 5 turnovers, 5 interceptions, just you can't have that when you're a backup quarterback. I think Jake Browning is truly one of the better backup quarterbacks in the league. I don't think there's a huge difference between Jake Browning and what you're going to get from a Joe Flacco or a Jameis Winston or whoever they would bring in, a Russell Wilson. A lot of weapons for these guys, but the line is still terrible. to where if you can't win the games with Jake Browning, I don't think you're going to win the games with those guys. And the way it's working right now, those guys might be worth one win. And I know that one win has left the Bengals out of the postseason last few years. This game on Monday is huge to where if we don't start winning some games, like, who cares, right? Like we're shifting the focus, recalibrating the focus of this season. And point blank, I'm selling this. Jake Browning, if you can't do it with him, I don't think you're going to do it with Jameis Winston or Kirk Cousins or Andy Dalton or Joe Flacco or any of the names that have been speculated to come to Cincinnati over the past few weeks. I'm selling this. Stone, what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm selling as well. It's unfortunate. I talked about this on my show yesterday. You're going from Joe Burrow, who I say is the best quarterback in the National Football League. You don't believe me? Fine. He's at least top 3. One of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League, to a backup. Not a middle-of-the-road starter, not a low-end starter, a backup. Like, it's just going to look way different. That's just the reality. Oh, he's got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. That's fine. You're going from Joe Burrow to a backup. It's going to look totally different. And if you go to another backup, it's still going to look bad too. So if you're in a spot where you can't win without Jake Browning, unfortunately, that's wraps for this year. Browning has proven that he can win some football games. Did it in 2023, obviously, but I don't see there's no, let's bring in this guy, let's bring in Russ. No, Russ is washed, and you're going to bring him in to back up, and then everybody's going to be talking, is it time to put Russ in? No. It's Jake Browning's team for now. If he gets hurt, they'll probably go with Sean or probably Mike White. We'll see if they go with White or Clifford or Rippon or how they're going to handle the backup spot. But you're on your backup quarterback now in Jake Browning, and that's your quarterback for now, and that's it.
I do want to say this. If they win Monday,
yeah,
or they beat the Lions whatever, they win one of these next couple games, and then Jake Browning gets hurt, I'm cool with options there. Because then I think the season's still kind of alive to where you can go and get, Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, whoever it is, for very cheap, like a 6th-round pick to, once again, you can, at that point, would be able to see how far along Joe Burrow is in his recovery, and you can start to kind of map out, like, all right, this might be viable. I'm okay then with doing it. But Jake Browning to those guys, I don't think it's worth, picking a 6th-round pick to where even if the same games that Jake Browning's going to win, I think Russell Wilson's going to win. Like, I don't think there's going to be, a tightly contested game that Russ wins over a Jake Browning. Jake Browning is good enough to get it done. So that's just the caveat that I wanted to say. That if we're winning games and then Jake goes down, then okay, I'm cool. I'm cool with it. But at the current moment, no. We're selling it. We're selling it down the river.
Joe Burrow will play another game this season, buy or sell. My exact reaction as well.
Because we know what the answer is. The reason that it's so hard to answer is because we know what the answer is. Like, we are saying he's going to come back on hope alone.
Yep.
All the logic, all of everything that our brain is telling us knows that Joe Burrow likely isn't going to come back. The minimum was 3 months, which puts his recovery at December 15th. And it's just like, okay. So I don't want to answer this, even though I know what my answer is. And the answer is I'm selling this. I don't think Joe Burrow plays another game this year. The only route in which Joe Burrow plays another game this year is that this team is a game. They're either at 500, a game over 500, and they really push him to come back. He pushes himself, and they push him, which then we can ask the question, do we even want that? But that's a small chance. So sell that Joe Burrow will play another game this year. Stone?
I think that's incredibly well said, everything you just said. I'm going to take the other approach. I'm going to say buy for now, just because your record is 2-1. I get you got blasted, doors blown off you last week, but you're 2-1 and still have an opportunity to be in contention late in the year. And if you can, again, the 3-month thing, coming back for the Baltimore game, premature. Could he perhaps come back for the last game or the second to last game? Still think there's a possibility that happens. Bengals obviously need to be in the hunt. 2-1. It was bad. It was really bad. Shouldn't be 2-1. Arguably should be 0-3. For now, they're 2-1, so for now I'll buy. But if they lose the next 2-3 games, then obviously I'll switch.
Can I tell you a story about me scrolling through Twitter a couple of days ago, and like we talk about, I started the show off by saying like what a blessing it is to like feel emotions from a team, from your hobby, whatever it is. I'm scrolling through Twitter and I'm trying to convince myself of the Bengals got a shot this Monday, and the first tweet I see made me so happy. It was PFF grades of quarterback play this year. And Bo Nix, the starting quarterback of the Denver Broncos, dead last. Dead last of starting quarterbacks in PFF grades. 2 tweets later, I was like, oh, man, we got a shot. We got a real shot at this thing. 2 tweets later, it was the Denver Broncos lead the NFL in sacks and QB pressures and everything. So, like, it was like right here, right back on down. I'm like, yeah, well, whatever. We're 7-point underdogs. So that was just my story about, man, just trying to figure out a way in which we can win this Monday, and a short roller coaster of emotions. Buy or sell? What's next?
Buy or sell. The defense is improved.
It's got to be a buy, right?
Got to be.
It's got to be a buy. I know they've not played the best offenses. I mean, the Minnesota Vikings put up 48. 2 of them were from the defense. They really didn't give up that many yards. They got outgained 2-1 in week 1, and they got outgained in week 2 of Trevor Lawrence and the Jags. But to this point, it's got to be a buy because it's not the worst defense in the league. Like, it's got to be a buy. It is marginally, though. I'm waiting for the shoe to fall because I think we all see the cracks in the defense. They're playing all right now. They really settled in last week against Carson Wentz until they, kind of just gave up. And I don't blame them for giving up in that second half. The game was over. But we're seeing cracks in the defense. But at this point, you can't say anything that it is improved. I'll buy.
Yeah, I'm buying this as well. Is it great? No. Do you feel good about it? No. To your point, have they played great teams? No. Great offenses? No. But it was just so bad last year. I get they cleaned it up at the end when they went on that streak, but it was against bad quarterbacks. And, they were able to force some turnovers in that stretch there as well. So, I think they've done a better job of tackling early in the year. Last year, that obviously was a big problem. Second half of last week's game, they didn't. But, again, they quit. Can you blame them? Tough to blame them in that spot. And also, I think there's a little bit of reason to be optimistic. If there's one positive takeaway from last week's game is that you saw some guys be able to get to the quarterback and apply some pressure on Wentz, not named Trey Hendrickson. You saw Joseph Osai make some plays. All right, I would argue Miles Murphy had the best game of his career to this point. And, there's some other guys that were making some plays there. Chris Jenkins Jr., he had a sack and a half as well. So some reason to be optimistic there. We'll see when they play, Baltimore, if they can even stop them once in that game. But for now, clearly better than last year, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's no other option right now.
All right, final one here on today's show, buy or sell. This Monday is a must-win.
I think I've done this each of the last 2 weeks. I think I did this. We did this all last year after they started 1-3 because it did feel like every single week was a must-win. But I keep telegraphing what I think happens if this season, if you didn't win either in Minnesota or you win this Monday in Denver, and I think it can get off the rails in a hurry. I don't like our chances. Our defense is, we just said it's a buy. It's still not good. It's improved, the defense is. Someone just put in there that our defense has given up 5.1 yards per rush. The Detroit Lions, who come to town next week and just rush for like 250 against the Baltimore Ravens. I don't think we match up very well with them or the Packers. So I think it is, man. I really think it is because I think things go sideways in a hurry. Like, you've got to have a domino fall your way to where, like, another team is going to be missing their quarterback. And even then, like, Matt LaFleur, let's say Jordan Love goes down for the Packers game in Lambeau Field. We're going to be in Lambeau, backup versus backup, and we've seen what Malik Willis can do in Matt LaFleur's system. Like, we're still going to be 4-point underdogs there. Or 5-point underdogs there. Jared Goff, I don't even know who the Lions' backup quarterback is, but Jared Goff goes down. We're still going to be underdogs at home. I like our chances. I don't like our chances, but our best chance for a win in the next 3 weeks is this Monday going to Denver on primetime, facing a Sean Payton who's going to outcoach Zach Taylor, facing a Bo Nix who's played terribly to this point. But even then, you'd rather have Bo Nix start over Jake Browning, I think. I'm short of saying it's a buy, but I'll buy it. It is a must-win.
I'll sell it. I think in this line of work, this phrase gets used way too much. I was kind of joking around. I know you were too about last week. Well, you're 2-0, but it kind of feels like a must-win game. The reality is you're 2-1. It's early. It technically isn't a must-win. It is a must-show competence. I tell you that much. You got to go out there and at least compete, be in the game in the second half. You can't do what you did last week against Minnesota. I get the schedule is really, really tough. If you had dropped one of those first 2 games that you should have probably dropped, maybe it's actually a must-win. But I'm not going to say must-win, but they have to show competence and improvement out there on Monday night. Island game too. That's always dangerous for a team that comes off a blowout. They've been struggling. Lots of people would call him for Zach Taylor, which happens every single year when the Bengals lose. But a lot of eyeballs going to be on the Bengals Monday night. Obviously, there is 2 games Monday night. So not fully an island game, but lots of eyeballs going to be on it, and they got to show competence and improvement.
What's the other game?
In this game? The Jets and the Dolphins, 2 winless teams.
Okay. It's funny. We talk about perspective a lot on this show already. The Bengals are 2-1, which is great. And if you're an NFL fan and a hater of these 2 franchises, either the Chiefs or the Ravens are going to be 1-3 after this weekend. So that's amazing too. And the worst case scenario is the Bengals lose, and whoever wins that Ravens Chiefs game, we tied with them record wise. So there's your perspective. But that's buy or sell. We've done mailbag, we've done buy or sell, and now I got to go into the gulag that is this take that I've been wanting to get off my chest now. I haven't been on the show all week. I thought of it over the week. I heard someone talking about it, and I thought deeply about it. And Haro asked the question in the mailbag. He said, should the Bengals start looking at alternative routes going forward as a franchise? What he's asking is the route has always been, you build up around Joe Burrow, you've got a shot. But it's becoming incredibly evident that banking on Joe Burrow to be healthy is a gambit. It's a gamble. One that you might be better off taking a separate gamble. You might be better off building around another chance, another gamble. And if you haven't read through the tea leaves yet, I'm going to bring up a scenario in which we trade Joe Burrow and what that looks like. Should we get rid of him and start anew? And I don't think you have to start anew. I don't think you have to tear it down to the studs to kind of build another route going forward. So here's my suggestion. I was thinking about other trades that have been good for one team or the other, and I found one that was mutually beneficial for both teams. So you go back to 2020, there was a perennially bad franchise. The Detroit Lions had this really great quarterback, Matthew Stafford. And what did they do? They traded him to the Rams, who, by the way, just went to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff. They traded him away to Sean McVay, and Sean McVay got an upgrade, and the Lions get Jared Goff and 2 first-round picks. The Rams get Matthew Stafford. They go on and obviously beat us in the Super Bowl, so that's a win for them. As we can tell by the way that the Lions look now, those extra draft picks have kind of sent them into a stratosphere that they have never been before. So can something like that happen for the Bengals? And I was thinking around, and I was like, man, how can we do the Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford trade? So tell me who says no in this scenario. Is it us or is it the other team? We understand that we can't work on the possibility of just waiting for Joe Burrow to be healthy every single year, because once he's down, it's all gone to heck, and he's hurt a lot. So we trade him to an offensive mind that everyone admits is one of the best offensive minds in the league, that seems to be having some frustration with his current quarterback. And in turn, we get that quarterback and 2 first-round draft picks. What if we trade Joe Burrow to the Chicago Bears for Caleb Williams and 2 first-round draft picks? Who says no? Stone, who says no? Do we say no? Do you say no? Does Ben Johnson and the Bears say no?
Well, I definitely say no. I think the Bears say no, and I think the Bengals say no. I think everybody says no. Reed is what I think.
I think so. Here's where I think it's crazy. I think we say no in that scenario, and I think the Bears would love it. I think the Bears. I think Ben Johnson would take it. Like after this year, it'd have to obviously not do it with Joe Burrow. So like the value of Caleb Williams might drastically change by the end of the year if he has a great season. The Bears play well, which it doesn't seem likely that that's going to happen. But they bring in Joe Burrow. We get 2 first-round draft picks. We get a young talent. And maybe he works, maybe he doesn't, but I think I'm on board for this. And I get it. No one wants to trade Joe Burrow. I'm just also maybe hurt and losing hope in the dream that was, man, we got Joe Burrow, we've got a chance. Because it's becoming incredibly evident that you can't bank on a guy that's there 50% of the time. He's fantastic. He's my favorite football player ever, maybe my favorite athlete ever, and I truly mean that.
And you want to trade him?
Because it's not – we can't go into a season knowing that if this dude gets hurt, and a lot of teams do that, right? Like if Patrick Mahomes gets hurt, the Kansas City Chiefs are done. Josh Allen gets hurt, they're done. The difference is those guys don't get hurt a whole lot. And I know part of it is, this offensive line is scrambling this guy. But Joe Burrow, I've made this point before, he's more injury prone than pretty much any quarterback in the league. He's been hurt, season-ending injuries. If this one is a season-ending injury, it's 3 out of 6 years, 50% of the time. And you can't just bank on, hey, we got to have this guy healthy. Come see, cross our fingers that our guy's healthy. No, I can't do that. It seems like a passive way of going about things. I want to be aggressive. I want to try something else. I think in that scenario, I think the Bears would do it. I think we'd say no. And I think that if that did go through, winning trades or, the articles that'd be written, it would look better on us. Like I think we would get the better end of that deal, and that's why I think that we'd say it. But I know it's crazy. I'm just saying, just throwing out the talk show hypothetical that we get to talk from time to time. I asked Stone this question, I think, on Monday, and he hated it ever since then.
Yeah,
He's hated it ever since.
I just don't think there's any situation where you trade Joe Burrow. Right? He's not – this isn't like some guy that's 35 years old. Like, I get he's had all these injuries. It's frustrating. Obviously, more frustrating for him than anybody else. It's frustrating for us, but it's got to be really frustrating for him too. And there's just no world where you move him because when he's out there and he's healthy, he's the best there is. Yeah. And that's just you don't trade that type of talent away. Oh, he's not out there every single year. Well, that's just kind of the reality of the situation. When he's out there, it's incredible. If he was 35 years old and there was more history of the injuries and this continued to happen, and you still weren't winning, fine. He's still a young player. He's still in his prime, right? Probably just entered his prime. And I get it's a borderline unprecedented injury for a quarterback in the NFL. To have the grade 3 turf toe and need the surgery. I hear all those things. But when Joe Burrow's out there, that is this team's best chance. If this team can't win a Super Bowl without Joe Burrow, this team will never, ever win a Super Bowl.
I think you guys are undervaluing Caleb Williams' talent, and I'll just leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. I think that's a big part of why I'd be okay with this because I think Caleb Williams has the talent to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and I don't think the talent. You can argue the talent there. You might argue other parts about him as a person, but I'm not saying we should do it. I'm just saying I think I'd be on board if that was able to pull the trigger. I can see how we can shift the focus of this franchise going forward. And the problem is, you guys would get there if he gets hurt again. If Joe comes back next year and he gets hurt again, you guys would be like, all right, we can't keep doing this. But at that point, it's too damaged. Like there's too many bruises on that banana at that point. All right, that was a fun show. Maybe not for you guys, but that was for me. We'll be back off the bench tomorrow. No Stone Shields on the show tomorrow, but there is the Stone Shield show coming up right now. See you guys.
All right, here we go. Welcome into the Stone Shield Show here on a Thursday. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us here this morning. Plenty to talk about here on today's show. The Reds obviously suffer another heartbreaking loss, really back-to-back heartbreaking losses. You sweep the Chicago Cubs, you take 4, you control your own destiny, and you respond by coming home to GABP, telling everybody to fill up the ballpark, and you lose back-to-back games. Really heartbreaking, devastating fashion. The Reds lose. We'll recap that game briefly here on today's show, but also we will turn the page relatively quickly as well because the Reds are actually going to be playing in less than 2 hours. It is raining here at our Chatterbox Sports offices a little bit. Not exactly sure what's transpiring downtown. Getaway day for the Reds. Final home game, regular season home game of the season before traveling till Milwaukee. And we'll see exactly what transpires on the baseball field today. Got some help late last night. The Cubbies finally break through and win a game. They beat the Mets. The Dodgers also go to 11 innings, as did the Reds. They go with the Arizona Diamondbacks on the road in Phoenix, and they take that game. So devastating, heartbreaking loss. If Cincinnati's able to win that game in extras, they would be back in the postseason, still on the outside looking in, but could have been a heck of a lot worse for Cincinnati. Still have a chance. 4 games left, 1 game out, own both the tiebreakers against the Arizona Diamondbacks and, of course, the New York Mets as well. But plenty to talk about on today's show. We'll start with Reds conversation. Also, banger of a weekend as it relates to college football. One of the best college football weekends of my life, to be completely honest with you. We will break down several games. USC, Illinois, Ohio State, Washington, LSU, Ole Miss, Auburn, Texas A&M, Oregon, Penn State, Alabama, Georgia. Incredible football games this weekend as it relates to college football. Also, the Ryder Cup getting going tomorrow. Yep, we're going to be talking some golf on today's show. We'll see how that goes. There were several people in the comment section that were trying to get us to talk about the Ryder Cup a little bit, and that's what we're going to do here this afternoon as well. Also, even on a Thursday, we'll have my best bets of the weekend. No show tomorrow. I will be out of town. I'll be back Monday, so we'll do our best bets of the weekend to close out today's show. If we have time, we'll spend a little bit of time talking about the Cincinnati Bengals, but they, of course, play on Monday Night Football on the road against the Denver Broncos, so we will do our preview for that on Monday during the show. But if there's time at the end, we'll spend some time talking about the Cincinnati Bengals. As always, appreciate everybody for being here. Hit that thumbs up icon, like the stream, and subscribe, of course, as well if you haven't done so already. YouTube.com/Chatterbox Sports here with you weekdays, Monday through Friday here at Off the Bench. And then, of course, my show, The Stone Shield Show, after that. Off the Bench, by the way, they will still do the show tomorrow. I will not be producing. Casey McAllister back in the producer chair. He will be steering the ship tomorrow, and I will be back on Monday. But let's start with the Cincinnati Reds. They lose 4-3 in extra innings last night to the Pittsburgh Pirates. And anyone that has followed the Reds this season knows that that kind of has been the Achilles heel of this Cincinnati Reds ball club. Obviously the offense in general, but just extra inning ball games. They have been dreadful in these extra inning ball games, one-run games. Usually, Tito Francona teams, they excel in those kinds of spots. Not the case this year for the 2025 Reds. It took some heroics for them to even get to extra innings because for much of the ball game, it felt like the momentum was entirely on the side of the visiting team, the Pittsburgh Pirates. And to be completely honest with you, I thought this game, as it progressed through the starting pitching, kind of transpired exactly how I would have guessed, to be completely honest with you. You had arguably 2 of the best pitchers in the game. I think Skenes is the best pitcher on planet Earth. He's going to win the Cy Young. He was exceptional. Again, last night, doesn't give up any runs. 6 innings of work for him, and he did a real tremendous job there on the diamond for the Pittsburgh Pirates. 4 hits, no runs, no walks, 7 strikeouts, lowers his ERA below 2. I mean, he is absolutely the real deal. Hunter Greene was also really, really good in the game. Not quite as good as Paul Skenes. He surrendered 5 hits, 2 runs, both of them earned, 2 walks, and also had 7 strikeouts in the game, has a 2.76 earned run average on the season. Kind of what I thought. Kind of thought, you know what, when Paul Skenes leaves the game, Red's probably not going to have any runs, and when Hunter Greene leaves the game, Pirates will probably have 1 or 2. The first run, that's just, credit to Pittsburgh for as far as how that got in and how that scored. The second one, better defense prevents that run from being scored. Kind of a bad angle or a bad, read on that ball in center field from TJ Friedel, a guy, by the way, that plays an exceptional center field. Not an easy play by any stretch of the imagination, but one I think he's capable of making. Misses that. And then you had Sal Stewart, obviously, at third base. Don't have your platinum glove guy. Key Brian Hayes getting the start last night. You put Sal Stewart down there. Made a couple of really nice plays. Don't want to sit here and bang on Sal Stewart too much. There was a play that he could have made that could have prevented that second run from coming home and being scored. And then Will Benson out in left field, kind of slow getting to the ball, and the whole process of him, fielding the baseball and turning it loose to home plate seemingly took forever. And on top of that, it was a bad throw as well. So that second run comes home to score. And for much of the game, it's 2-0. And you're sitting there like, the Reds are going to get shut out again. And then late in that ball game, who came up big in the 8th inning? That would be Noelvi Marte, as he had an inside-the-park home run. Was really impressed with Marte as this game progressed. People are going to be beating him up for that last at-bat, which we'll get to in a second. But those first ABs against Paul Skenes were not competitive whatsoever. And even the game 2 nights ago in Game 1 this series, Marte looked completely off. Marte, obviously, kind of one of the real bright spots of this team as you kind of take a step back and look at 2025 as a whole. I think he's done a really tremendous job. Has certainly cooled off here in recent days and weeks here for the Cincinnati Reds, but comes through big time with a inside the park home run. Oneil Cruz tries to field it up near the center field wall. It bounces away. I knew Marte could run, but boy, he got around the bases in a hurry. Not even a play at the plate. And then the Reds all of a sudden have a chance, right? It's 2-1. And then you need some 9th inning magic. And Tyler Stephenson came up big. One of the best moments in Great American Ballpark history, certainly of the past, 10-plus years, I would say. With that home run from Stephenson, the place absolutely erupted when he went yard. I mean, just a hanging slider, and he did not miss it. Tyler Stephenson, he got out his last time at bat, which, could have, changed the outcome of the game, but he was exceptional in this game. 4 hits in the game, first 4-hit night of his career. Had the RBI, obviously, with the solo shot, but an incredible game played by Tyler Stephenson, and there was just kind of life back, for the Cincinnati Reds as they tied it up, and then had an opportunity, after that, with a guy on and 1 out, and ultimately weren't able to get him in. So you kind of were hoping they could transfer that momentum later to the 9th inning and still find a way to walk it off in the 9th. But they get to extra innings, which felt like a win considering where the game was going. And, in extra innings, you had a big-time sacrifice fly from Gavin Lux. Again, not quite sure why he is batting in the 3 spot, as he kind of had a couple of pop-ups, 0 for 3, obviously going into that at-bat. For Cincinnati, also ended up drawing a walk in the ball game. But the fact he was at that 3 spot, bit of a head scratcher for me once again. But he had a nice sac fly, and it's like, oh, wow, the Reds, they at least scored. Sometimes this team gets the extra innings, and they obviously don't score. And then Martinez comes in the 11th and, immediately gives up that double. I believe it was Horwitz that had it, and, he struggled for the entirety of the season for Pittsburgh, but he's been really good in this series. Comes up with a big hit. They add on 1 more. You're able to get out of the inning. An incredible double play from Matt McLain. By the way, probably the one positive thing McLain, did in the ball game. It was a nice play by him. So you give yourself a chance because, if another run scores for Pittsburgh, it's 5-3. You probably are like, you know what, that's probably it. But the Reds had an opportunity in the 11th. And unfortunately weren't able to do anything with it. Stephenson out, Benson out, and actually, they got one of those guys on. Friedel was the last out. McLain fouled out, and then Friedel was the last out of that. Actually, Friedel got on. I'm just making stuff up here at this point. I forgot. They loaded the bases, right? Friedel was on, and then, of course, it was Noelvi Marte that ended up rolling into that fielder's choice there. Bases loaded, 3-1 count. Obviously, a walk ties the game. And Noelvi Marte, some people are like, why are you swinging at that? Some people are like, you got to swing at it. That's not why you lost the game, right? You had plenty of opportunities throughout the entirety of the game, and he kind of rolls it over to the third baseman who taps on the bag. And that does it. And the Reds lose 4-3. a couple of takeaways from the game. You can't. Hunter was great. Was he going to be able to outperform Paul Skenes? Yeah, he has the ability to do that, but I don't think that was something that you should have necessarily been counting on. If you're the Cincinnati Reds, I thought there was a couple of things that could have been different in the game as far as managing, as far as Tito Francona goes. Again, when you're in these kinds of spots and you lose, people are going to pick apart the manager. It's just the nature of the business, and Tito obviously understands that as well. Putting South Stewart, I get that you wanted home run power in the lineup going against Paul Skenes. That's fine. But Tito's all been defense, defense, defense. That's why McLean's been playing second base. Well, why are you taking Brian Hayes out? I understand he can't hit the baseball. I understand he's got a bit of a back issue, but he played game 1. He's playing game 3 here this afternoon. I would have had Brian Hayes in the lineup. And Miguel Andujar, this one for me is really hard to wrap my head around. Obviously, against lefties, he's in there because nobody hits lefties better in this league than Miguel Andujar. All right, but he can hit righties too, and he's proven that. He's proven he can be clutch. He has the ability to put the ball over the fence there as well, and he's just kind of been a pinch hitter for him. And the guy's average is unbelievable. Put him in the game. Let him start. They're doing that here this afternoon in Game 3, but the fact it took him as long as it did to get him an at-bat, he just continued to fight, stay alive, foul out pitches, ended up ultimately striking out. But Miguel Andujar is the reason why you're in this spot if you're the Cincinnati Reds where you even have a chance. He's got to be in the lineup more, if I'm being completely honest. So those two are the main things for me. Need more Andujar and, frankly, less McLean, and would have had Ke'Bryan in the lineup last night. But and obviously I'd move Gavin Lux down the lineup there as well. But those are kind of, that's kind of what transpired in the game. And Chase Burns, he was great out of the pen, so it was a great move by Tito. And then, Santillan hung in there. It was a bit of a shaky start there, obviously. And then, Martinez gives up the double. And he gets, honestly, lucky to have the double play. And then you're kind of in that position where you lose the ball game. So Reds first pitch, 12:40 here, about an hour and a half away from right now. Big game, obviously, for Cincinnati. Again, we said at the top, they got some help last night from the Mets and the Diamondbacks, so they're still a game back. There were lots of people that felt like last night was a must-win. Turns out it wasn't. Now you look to Nick Lodolo today, 12:40 first pitch. Only got 4 games left. Friedel, Marte, Lux, Steer, De La Cruz, Andujar, Benson, Trevino, Hayes. Do I have my issues with this? Yep, I do. Lux, I think it was time. You got to put him out there at second. Will that cost him defensively? We'll see. McLean plays a great second base. He can't hit the baseball. Shouldn't be in the lineup. He's not. Lux, would I put him at number 3? Nope. Wouldn't do that. But he remains at number 3 in this order. Andujar finally gets a start. He's in there at 6 behind Ellie. I think that's a great move. He's the DH. And then Tyler Stephenson, the game of his life, 4 for 5. He gets rewarded by sitting the bench here in this game as Trevino is back behind the dish and catching. Benson in the lineup at left field. So we'll see. I'd move Lux down. Maybe even move Andujar up. That's how highly I think of him. Somebody's got to bat number 3 in the lineup. I don't think that, Gavin Lux is a number 3 hitter. And that's just kind of the reality of the situation. Not sure why Stevenson's out of the lineup, to be honest with you. No clue on that one. Nothing against Trevino. He's played solid for this team, but he's not in there. And we'll see if Nick Lodolo, as he takes the hill in the biggest start of his career, can answer the bell for Cincinnati in this game. Got to score. Right? I mean, you score 2 runs in game 1, 3 in game 2 in extra innings. Not enough. And you're playing Pittsburgh, right? The Reds have always struggled throughout the entirety of this year of playing down to their level of competition. They've been really good against the really good teams in professional baseball, but against the bad teams, they haven't been good enough. And unfortunately, that's why they find themselves here in this position, but still life. I know that was kind of a, negative talk to Reds conversation there, but still plenty of reason to be positive. 4 games left in the season. You're a game out, and you own both tiebreakers with the 2 teams in which you're competing with. Reason to be optimistic. Have the past 2 nights been incredibly frustrating? Yes. Against the Pittsburgh Pirates, a team that isn't very good, team that you've struggled against for whatever the case may be. But you have an opportunity here this afternoon. We'll see. Obviously, it's the middle of the day, businessman special. I'm not going to be able to pack GABP tonight, or this afternoon probably. But the boys need to respond in a big way. Need to play with their hair on fire, and for them, they had to flush it. They can't sit there and stew on what happened last night. Yeah, you went through a lot of arms in the game. Yeah, you took them to the brink and ultimately fell up short. But you have to find a way to get a win here tonight. And if you do that, gives yourself a chance against Milwaukee. If you find yourself in a situation where you need to sweep the Brewers, you're probably cooked. That's just kind of the reality. You got to win today, and you got to find a way minimum to take 2 or 3 from Milwaukee. Maybe you'll continue to get help, all right? But eventually, the Mets aren't going to be playing the Cubs. They're going to be playing the Fish. And obviously that is a completely different level of opponent. So we'll see. But plenty of reasons still to be optimistic. We'll see what Lodolo can do. Singer was solid. He had the one bad inning. He gave up 4, but he was fine. He stayed in the game. He was able to finish out that start and, gave yourself a chance. Greene, were you hoping he could be, the same guy that he was against Chicago? He was really, really good. 7 Ks. Gave up the 2 runs. Could argue probably should have only given up 1. And the Reds needed a little bit more than that. All right, can Lodolo, match that expectation for Cincinnati? Hopefully the offense shows up and you're fine. But can Lodolo put yourself in a spot where you're only giving up 1 or 2 runs and really put you in a great spot so you don't have to fully lean on that offense? We'll see. That gets underway here in about an hour and a half, 12:40 Reds and Pirates. And I'm going to call this one a must-win. I was just talking on off the bench how that phrase gets utilized a little bit too much in this line of work, talking about sports. Oh, must-win game. Some people were calling it a must-win last night. Clearly it wasn't, as now you're still only 1 game behind, as the Mets and the Diamondbacks both lose. But I'm going to call this one a must-win here this afternoon between the Pittsburgh Pirates, Lodolo on the bump against Ashcraft for Pittsburgh. A game which you should win. You've been favored in all 3 of these games, by the way. Minus 175, I believe, the money line last I looked for Cincinnati. We'll see if they can answer the bell and give themselves a chance on getaway day before going to Milwaukee. But that's our Reds conversation here. And hopefully the boys tomorrow on Off the Bench are talking about a Reds win on tomorrow's show and kind of previewing a huge series with the Milwaukee Brewers. All right, massive weekend in college football. One of the best I've seen. I've said it several times. And, we're just going to be really talking about ranked matchups here on this show today, but even some of the unranked games. Arkansas and Notre Dame at noon is a huge game. Sam Pittman coaching for his job. The Irish trying to figure things out defensively for their football team. They have the 2 losses. Need, of course, to run the table to even think about perhaps having a chance. Not in a conference. Puts themselves in a tough spot. They do have, USC, who we'll talk about here in a second. That looks like that could be a possible big win for them if USC takes care of business against Illinois. But lots of great college football. And let's start with those very USC Trojans. That gets going at noon. Big noon game on Fox. USC and Illinois. USC minus 6.5 on the road. And nobody really talking about Lincoln Riley and the Trojans. Even coming into this year, nobody really talking about them. I think the narrative around Lincoln is that, maybe he can't win at SC. Obviously had tremendous success at Oklahoma. Never really won that super big game. Got him into the college football playoff, but obviously never competed for a national title. I think the expectation was that he was going to come to SC and completely rebuild them and get him back to being a perennial powerhouse. That hasn't really translated here to this point. You obviously had Caleb Williams for a couple of years at SC. Weren't able to win as many games as you probably should have in that stretch, but he's done a nice job of rebuilding his roster. The knock on Riley's teams at USC have always been they lack toughness and they lack physicality and they lack size in the trenches. Well, through the transfer portal and recruiting as well, he's built the trenches out a little bit better. They have a more stable offensive line. They can now run the football better. I think that's something that people don't always understand about the successful Oklahoma teams, right? They just think, Lincoln Riley, they're great quarterbacks, Heisman Trophy winners. They're just cutting it loose, throwing the football. And, yeah, they threw it their fair share, but the reason those offenses were able to be successful is they had the threat on the ground. They have not had that at SC over the past couple of years. They now have that. They've got several good running backs that can carry the football, and that puts them in a spot where they're now, viewed as a team that can win bigger games. Offensively, they've been great. First in yards per play and third in yards per carry. I understand they haven't played top-tier talent. They've played 2 Big Ten games to this point. Purdue, obviously, at the very bottom of the Big Ten. They got a coaching change. They're several years away from being a threat whatsoever. And then you have Michigan State, who, by the way, Aiden Childs, their quarterback. I think Sparty's a lot better than people are giving him credit for. How many wins are they going to have? I'm not quite sure, but it isn't the Sparty team of old. And USC looked really good against them, so we'll see exactly, how they can handle the rest of their schedule as it relates to Sparty. But I think that's more of a solid win than people are giving SC credit for. Jordan Mailata, their quarterback, he played in spurts last year, and was kind of erratic with the football, questionable decision-making, came over from UNLV prior to that. But he's been playing really, really well. And, look, I'm not going to say he's going to win the Heisman Trophy, but if he continues the way he's playing right now, he's going to be a guy that's going to be in New York up for that trophy. That's a guy that could potentially bring it home. I think a lot of what he's doing in some ways kind of reminds me of what Baker was able to do at SC. He's a guy that wants to play within the structure of the offense and, find guys downfield and not just rely on his legs, but he also does have that elusiveness inside the pocket, and he'll use his legs if he has to. I think Caleb Williams, when he was playing quarterback at SC, things would break down. He clearly didn't trust his offensive line. His offensive line was bad, but he was looking at his first read, it wasn't there, and he was out of the pocket. He was gone, and he was trying to run. That's not what Mayaba is doing for SC, and he's playing quarterback at a really high level. Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver. If you don't know about him, tap in. He's a really, really good player. And a lot of what SC can do reminds me in a lot of ways of what Indiana and Curt Cignetti are doing over there. And they obviously had tremendous success against Illinois. 63-10, blowout fashion. The ability to throw it, the ability to run it. Mendoza, I believe, now the Heisman favorite, Indiana quarterback, he was showing that he could throw the football, he can run the football. SC can throw it and run it too. Going to be a tremendous challenge for Illinois. And Illinois also really, really beat up in the secondary there as well. So lots of backups are going to be in that game. USC can rush the passer a lot better as well. Altmaier, good chance he's under siege in this game. And, we're about to find out, what the Trojans are really made of. I just pointed out that I thought Sparty was a better win than people are giving them credit for, but now the schedule really actually gets more difficult. Illinois this week, then Michigan, then Notre Dame. We're going to find out if USC can be a playoff type of team and where exactly Lincoln Riley has this program at right now. But I think lots of reason to be optimistic if you are a Trojan fan. And, this isn't one of the best bets of the weekend, but I certainly would lean on USC -6.5 if I had to pick. I get it, traveling to Champaign from Southern California. It's just something that they're going to have to deal with in the new state of the Big Ten. But, I think USC is going to show up, be ready to play on the road and play really well in the game against Illinois. Great game at noon, and that's just kind of getting things going for the college football slate. OSU, Washington, 3:30. Great game. Husky Stadium. Ohio State has to go on the road. That game opened at a 13.5-point spread. Since then, it has dropped all the way down to 7.5. That was just before we got going with off the bench earlier this morning. Maybe it even has moved even more since then. But Washington is a team that's unranked, but they should be ranked. To me, when you watch Washington, that is a ranked team. They just beat up on their rival, Washington State. I get their program's kind of in a dire situation right now, but they're clearly one of the best 25 teams in the country, in my opinion. So what's going to happen in this game? Obviously, Julian Sayin, who I'm a big-time believer in, the quarterback of Ohio State, this is his first time going on the road, and that's going to be a big test for him. For whatever reason, people don't give Husky Stadium that kind of credit, but it is a really, really tough place to play, especially if Washington can get off to a fine start. I don't know if you need to say a hot start, but just hang in there early. That place can get really, really loud and be a tremendous challenge for opposing teams. I think Julian Sayin is equipped to handle it. I think Julian Sayin is one of the best quarterbacks Ohio State has had. I am a big believer in Julian Sayin. He's just going to get better and better and better. I don't think the environment is going to be too much for him. The question to me is Ryan Day. How is Ryan Day going to handle this game? Ryan Day, I don't think there's really an argument. I think at this point, after what he was able to do in the college football playoff, Ryan Day is the second best coach in the country behind Kirby Smart. Ryan Day's proven that he's really, really good. But you also have to understand that before this national title run, Ryan Day is a choke artist. He has been. He has not played. His team has not played their best in the biggest moments, and it caused them to lose lots of games that they should not have lost, given the talent that they have on their roster. Credit to Day, he's corrected that, but that still lives within Ryan Day, and a lot of it has been uber conservative play calling and game plans. All right? If he keeps this game close to the vest and tries to protect his quarterback in this game, kind of similar to what they did against Texas, I understand that kind of a game plan against Texas, at the time the number one team in the country, Julian Sayin making his first ever start. I get it in that situation, but he better not call the game like that here. All right, because if Washington can hang around in the game, they're a feisty bunch. That crowd, And then all of a sudden it's the fourth quarter and you need Sayin to make a play. Who knows at that point? I think Ryan Day needs to cut it loose with Julian Sayin. And I think if he does that, Sayin will be just fine. And they will create lots of offense, and they'll cover the spread in this game. But if Ryan Day wants to protect him and run the football and lean on his defense, I don't know. I don't think that's the best course of action for Ryan Day in this football game. So the game plan of Ohio State, obviously we're going to find out very, very early what that is. If it's conservative, if it's protect the young quarterback, run the football, lean on the defense, I don't think Ohio State can afford to mess around against the team. Because if they do that, that's just going to build the confidence of Damon Williams and Jedd Fisch and his team, and they're going to feel like they can win the game. If Ohio State comes out guns blazing and slings the football around and it's a big lead early, I don't think Washington has the firepower, especially against that Matt Patricia defense, to come back in the game. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of game plan Ryan Day has. Damon Williams, quarterback for Washington, really good player. My question is, how elusive can he be? If he can be really elusive in this game, they have a chance. If he can pick up first downs with his legs, they've got a chance. I don't know if he can do that. Those linebackers for Ohio State, Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles, they are really, really good. So if they can contain him and prevent him from picking up first downs, it's going to be a really tough game for Washington if they're able to do that. Also, Jonah Coleman, great running back for Washington. Ohio State, obviously, their playoff run last year, you couldn't run the football against them. We'll see. Texas at times had success running, but for the most part, not really. So we'll see what the run defense of Ohio State looks like. Matt Patricia's been really, really good in these couple of games for Ohio State. Now he has to go on the road for the first time, and we'll see if that defense travels. I think it will. Defense tends to travel. The question is offensively what that's going to look like. But Damon Williams, Jonah Coleman, they've got some good players on that team. Jedd Fisch is an unbelievable coach. You know, Florida job, obviously, with Billy Napier. We'll see. You know, that's a big buyout. I think $21 million for Billy Napier at Florida. So, I think clearly Florida needs to move on from him. If they do, I think Jedd Fisch is a guy that could be a top candidate. He has been around. He's had success. Of course, head coach at Arizona prior to this. He spent time with McVay, by the way, with the Rams, has NFL background, was with the Texans, was with the Broncos, was with the Seahawks, was with the Patriots as a quarterback coach. So Jedd Fisch is a really, really good coach, and I think he can go toe-to-toe with Ryan Day. Does he have the talent that Ryan Day has? Absolutely not, but I think he can go toe-to-toe with him. So Ohio State clearly has the better players, clearly has the better roster, and I think they're in a position to win this football game. And if they let Julian Sayin throw the football around, I think they will do just that. But it's a really, really good college football game. And if they try to, protect him and run the football and lean on their defense, it could be close late. And obviously in a game like this on the road, anything could happen at that point. 3:30, Ohio State at Husky Stadium against Washington. Another incredible football game. Also at 3:30, LSU and Ole Miss, another banger. LSU ranked in the top 5. I've been very, very vocal about the fact preseason I had LSU as the national champion. Do I feel as good about that now as we sit here on September 25th through a couple of games into the season? No, I don't, but I'm not going to back off it here at this point. Ole Miss minus 2.5 in this game, and to me that's a head-scratcher. I don't understand that line whatsoever. Ole Miss is borderline overrated, I would say, at this point. I like Lane Kiffin a lot. I really do. But they were in close games against Arkansas and Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky's bad. I get Kiffin has had a Kentucky problem, and his teams have always struggled against Kentucky. That's just, every coach seemingly has that team where it's like they should beat them, but they just always struggle with them. That's Kentucky and Kiffin. But LSU being a favorite in this game, I don't get it. Chambliss is going to get the start at quarterback. They've kind of gone back and forward with him and Austin Simmons. Simmons was their original starter. He has the injury. Might be good enough to go, but they're going to go with Chambliss. We'll see if Simmons backs him up. Chambliss won a Division II national title, so he's played in big time games. Obviously, nothing like what he'll face on Saturday, but they have a lot of confidence in him. But Ole Miss's defense is not good at all, and their run defense is really bad as well. 121st in the country in run defense. Now, Caden Durham, the LSU running back, is banged up. He's a sophomore. I think he's a really, really good player. But LSU also hasn't been able to run the ball. LSU's offense kind of has been one of the biggest shocks to me this season, is they have guys on the outside. They have skilled guys. I thought Garrett Nussmeier was the most NFL-ready quarterback coming into this year. and I was really high on Durham, the running back, but their offense has not lived up to expectations. I kind of feel like it's my way of thinking that the LSU offense will kind of have their breakout party in this game on the road against Ole Miss. Just that Ole Miss defense isn't very good. Nussmeier can sling it. If he doesn't try to do too much and protect the football to an extent, I think they will be just fine in this game and win the game despite the fact they're 2.5-point underdogs. Nussmeier, a guy that, again, I've been really, really high on. You know, the year that he's had at this point hasn't been the year that I think a lot of people thought he would have. But also that LSU defense is outstanding, which is crazy, is they bring in a new coordinator. Obviously, you know, when Jaden Daniels was the quarterback, and even last year with Nussmeier, that LSU defense was bad. But now it's the reason they're literally winning games. You know, they do have the storyline there. Whit Weeks, middle linebacker, Dayton Kiffin's daughter. Kiffin went on social media, said take the over, so that's a fun little storyline there, I'm sure. Kiffin just loves that kind of stuff, right? Just a little bit of extra to have people tap in what's an incredible college football weekend. But LSU, their defense, I expect them to continue to play well. And if LSU's in a spot offensively where they're going to, you know, score, if they can score 30-plus points, they're going to win. Now, they haven't been able to do that to this point. They face some quality defenses. They got to figure things out, though, offensively, and I think they will do that on the road. Again, I don't get the line. I think LSU should be favored in this game. They're not, and usually in situations like that, it's just kind of Vegas knows something, right? When you look at it and say, I don't even think they got, you know, the team right? Much less the spread. Just I don't think the right team is favored in the game. That's how I feel in this one. Usually that's not a good thing. Usually Vegas knows a lot more than me in those situations. But we'll see. We'll revisit this game later on the show with the best bets of the weekend coming up in a little bit. Auburn and Texas A&M, another really good game. Auburn was in a fight with Oklahoma last week. Oklahoma, by the way, loses their quarterback, John Mateer, who at the time was a Heisman frontrunner, so they've got some questions. Certainly have questions defensively. They have an incredibly difficult schedule there as well. But Auburn's got to come back right away and go to College Station, which, in my opinion, it's a 3:30 game, not a night game. I think College Station at night is the toughest place to play in college football. But, again, 3:30 game, but that crowd is going to be rocking there, and it's going to be really tough for Hugh Freeze, Jackson Arnold, and that team. A&M also, by the way, coming off a bye. So they had a massive win on the road at Notre Dame. They come back. They have a bye. They get healthy. They regroup, and now they get ready to host Auburn in a big-time SEC game. Auburn gave up 10 sacks against Oklahoma. That's not getting it done. That's not cutting it. And Texas A&M will come after you with that defensive front. That is going to be an issue. And also, you know, a big storyline with Texas A&M as Marcel Reed, you know, takes over as this is his first year as kind of the guy, right? He took over last year, but, you know, he had to earn the team, and he was viewed as that just running guy at first. Now he's a true quarterback, and he's viewed as the guy in College Station. And that passing attack against Notre Dame was really, really good. Now, that Notre Dame defense might just be really bad. That could very well be a true situation here as it relates to the Irish defense. But passing attack looked really good for A&M and Marcel Reed. If they can continue to pass the football like that through this SEC schedule, we know what they're capable of on the ground, even with the quarterback run stuff, look out. They have, I'm not going to put them up there with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, but that wide receiver tandem of KC Concepcion and Mario Craver, that is real. And I think that's going to continue throughout the season there as well. So A&M's a really good team, only laying 6.5 at home. Wide receiver tandem, as I mentioned, really good, solid defense. I'm not a believer in Jackson Arnold. I'm not a believer in Hugh Freeze either. Never understood that hire, to be completely honest with you. When Auburn brought him in, big-time game, College Station, place is going to be going absolutely ballistic in that game. Mike Elko is proving that he is the right man for this job. Had a solid year last year in year one. Here he is in year two. Already has the big win on the road at Notre Dame. I expect them to play really well in this game. And another game we will revisit later in the show with our best bets of the weekend. Two more that I want to talk about, and it is the two biggest ones here in this game. This weekend, saving these two for last. Oregon and Penn State. Great football game. Absolutely unbelievable. Oregon on the road against Penn State. Obviously has to travel across country. Again, that's the state of the Big Ten these days. I'm totally fine with it. I'm here for it. Penn State favored by 3.5 points. It is the whiteout game in Happy Valley. Crazy environment, raucous environment. I just said I think A&M at night is the hardest environment to play with. I think there would be a lot of people, or play in, there would be a lot of people that would say Happy Valley whiteout is the hardest to play in. Oregon's going to have their work cut out for them. Obviously, this is a rematch of last year's Big Ten championship game. Oregon obviously got the better of Penn State in this spot. Penn State notoriously has been horrible in these types of games. They have lost 14 straight games in the regular season against top 10 opponents. Their last one was a victory all the way back in 2016 against Ohio State. We're approaching a decade anniversary of that. They have been putrid in these spots against top 10 teams in the regular season. Awful. Credit to James Franklin and his staff and his teams for beating the teams that they should beat. Doesn't always look pretty, but they beat the teams they should beat. They find themselves in these types of games, and they absolutely play horrible. All right, going to be a very tough environment. Oregon's offensive line, I believe in them. They were rebuilt through the portal. This will be their biggest challenge yet after they play this front of Penn State. Penn State hasn't thrown the football well at all. Drew Aller's supposed to be this guy, he could be the number one pick. He can sling it all over the football field. He was bad in the playoff, and they still almost made it to the national title game. And he's been bad this year against bad competition. Just kind of how it's been. We'll see. He's going to have to be able to throw the ball in this game. Penn State, however, can run the football really well. Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen, those guys are real. That's a real tandem in their backfield. And Oregon has shown that they're not always the best against the run. That Northwestern game at Northwestern had a lot of success, particularly early in that game, run the football. Dan Lanning, he was fired up about that. He was ticked off about that. I think they'll get it corrected. But if Penn State can run the football, chew clock, time of possession, own that, score, crowd's going crazy, they have a chance in this game. But incredible game. Oregon, Penn State, College Game Day will be there. That will be awesome. That is just an awesome college football game. Dante Moore, the quarterback for Oregon. I believe, by the way, that Oregon has the better quarterback in this matchup, but this is his first, big-time test on the road, hostile environment against, a top 5 ranked team. Penn State obviously ranked number 3. That's going to be an incredible game. We'll revisit that later on the show as well. Finally, Alabama and Georgia. This game always delivers. Always. The big thing here, storyline, is can Kirby kind of get that monkey off his back? Now, obviously, he's beaten Alabama, and he beat him in a really big spot in the national title game. I get it. But he's faced him 7 times as the head coach of Georgia. He's 1-6 in those ball games. However, this is the first time he gets the Crimson Tide between the hedges. It's always been a neutral site, SEC championship a lot of the time. Obviously, national championship a couple of times, or in Tuscaloosa. First time he is facing them in Athens. Place is going to be going berserk. Going to be an unbelievable environment in that game. Georgia has the longest home win streak out of anyone in the country. 33 consecutive wins at home for the Georgia Bulldogs. Last time they lost the game was in 2019. Oh, by the way, that was before COVID. This team does not lose at home. Going to be an unbelievable game. Georgia showed that they're a really good football team against Tennessee. They faced a lot of adversity on the road. Neyland Stadium, checkered, obviously, crowd. That's a really tough place to play. We're talking about tough places to play in college football. You can put that near the top of the list there as well. And they went in, down 21-7, had poise, came back. Obviously, we're the beneficiary of a missed kick, but Gunnar Stockton played really, really well in that game. Georgia's a heck of a lot better than they were last year, particularly offensively. I'm not fully in on Gunnar Stockton, but he silenced a lot of doubters with his performance against Tennessee, especially behind in the game, facing adversity, had the fumble early on as well, and was really able to respond well to that. And not only does Georgia not lose at home, Kalen DeBoer's teams here at Alabama look horrible on the road. He goes away from Tuscaloosa, and it's bad. I mean, usually defense travels. I mean, the defense was horrendous last year at Vandy. Bama obviously played horrible at Neyland Stadium last year. At Oklahoma last year, horrible as well. So Kalen DeBoer, people bang on him. He plays really well at home, but he goes on the road. It's a completely different team, and this is going to be his toughest road test yet, having to go into Athens, a really hungry team that is looking to finally get a victory over Alabama. That's going to be awesome. I have my questions on whether Alabama will continue the progress they made. They went on the road in week 1 and got smacked around by Florida State. Looked really good the next 2 weeks against, Little Sisters of the Poor. And then Wisconsin, who's a bottom, Big Ten team, but they looked excellent in that game. Now they got to go back to the road. Are they going to revert back to old habits? Are they going to continue to have stupid penalties? Are they going to get pushed around on the line of scrimmage? Or are they going to come ready to play? We'll see. Going to be a phenomenal game. Georgia favored by 3.5. Coming back to that game there as well. All right. Ryder Cup gets going tomorrow, and I'm a big golf guy. I haven't talked golf on the show. If enough people are interested, I'll continue talking about golf. Obviously, kind of a dead period here after the Ryder Cup, but I'm locked into the PGA Tour at all times. I absolutely love it. It's unbelievable. I love watching it. Those guys are some of the best. I'm not going to say some of the best athletes, but some of the most talented people that are professional athletes. As I kind of escape my way around that statement there. But the bottom line is these guys are incredibly talented, and they're really, really good. 12 guys, obviously, on each team. Team USA and Europe. 6 guys get in. They automatically qualify for each team. The captain picks the latter 6 guys. Luke Donald, again, is the captain for Europe. Keegan Bradley, the captain for Team USA. I haven't been this fired up about a captain in, I don't know, in quite some time. Keegan Bradley is that dude. He is a competitor. He's an awesome dude, by the way. He's also a really good golfer, and I think he's the perfect person to captain this ship for Team USA. They have to win, right? They have to win. They're favored against Europe. Obviously, it's at home. One of the hardest things to do in golf, Rory McIlroy said this. I think it's absolutely true. One of the hardest things to do in golf is win an away Ryder Cup. The U.S. unfortunately saw that in Rome a couple of years ago. Big-time struggle for them. Europe wins that. I would argue on paper, Europe has probably the better team, top to bottom. But it's at home, Bethpage Black, New York. That crowd is going to be incredibly feisty, as it is in all Ryder Cups. They're going to be out. They're going to show out. They're going to be ready to go, cheering on Team USA and heckling the you-know-what out of Team Europe. So, automatic qualifiers for Team USA: Scotty Scheffler, J.J. Spahn, Xander Schauffele, Russell Henley, Harris English, Bryson DeChambeau. DeChambeau's the key there, or one of the keys. Obviously, Scotty Scheffler, best player in the world. I would argue the best athlete in the world right now. Scotty Scheffler is unbelievable. One of my favorite athletes. Guy's insane. Now, in team events in the past, he has taken a small step back, meaning he's not quite as dominant and brilliant as he is in the individual stuff. This year, this weekend, got to be different. They need Scotty Scheffler to be the best player in the world and be the best player out of all 24 guys that are competing in this Ryder Cup. But Bryson DeChambeau, you have him. Obviously, he's a live player, but Bryson DeChambeau is built for the Ryder Cup. And there is nothing more that I want to see a singles match between him and Rory McIlroy where he's just chirping Rory. That would be awesome. Obviously, they had their history and their drama at Pinehurst a couple of years ago. Rory absolutely folded there at the end. Bryson wins at Pinehurst, picks up his second U.S. Open. That was awesome. And by the way, I'm not fully a Bryson guy. He's got some quirkiness and some things that I don't agree with. But just in this spot and with this team, the U.S., they're going to need Bryson DeChambeau, and I think he's the perfect guy to kind of, be up to the challenge. And obviously at the Masters this past year, right, Rory obviously ends up winning that. He breaks through. He gets his first green jacket. Bryson was playing with him, and he just didn't have the game that Sunday. He was missing too many iron shots and really was never a threat. And Justin Rose obviously kind of climbed back into it. He had a great first couple of days at the Masters, but he was really the guy applying pressure to Rory. Bryson really couldn't do that because his game just really wasn't in a good enough spot to do it. But obviously in the Masters or a major, you're not going to get guys, chirping at each other or anything like that. But you're going to get it in a Ryder Cup. And seeing Bryson DeChambeau and Rory McIlroy in a singles match, that would be absolute chills, and I think Bryson would be ready to deliver. But the X factor for me, no pun intended, is Xander Schauffele. Xander Schauffele is one of the best players in the world, and he's got to show up and be ready to go in this Ryder Cup. Why? Because there's 4 guys that are rookies for this U.S. team. J.J. Spahn, Russell Henley, Ben Griffin, and Cam Young are all 4 rookies. Playing in your first Ryder Cup, now, I get it's at home and not on the road, but the pressure that comes with that is immense. So the guys that have been there, done that, have to carry the load, particularly early in the week, as that kind of was an issue in Rome. It's like you were just behind before you even got going. You're getting your butt kicked the first day, and it's just we were fighting an uphill battle, and you couldn't even really get back into it. You have to get out to a hot start, and you got to lean on those guys that have been there and competed in these moments. Xander Schauffele needs to be big in this Ryder Cup for Team USA. The captain's picks: Patrick Cantlay, Ben Griffin, Colin Morikawa, Justin Thomas, Cam Young. Real quick on that team that Keegan assembled, I was one of those guys. I was pulling for Keegan Bradley. I wanted him to be a playing captain. I think he's one of the top 12 players in the U.S. I think that's very clear. He won this year as well. But, based on his conversations, meeting with the media, it's become pretty obvious that the only way he was going to be on this team is if he got in by points, top 6 guy. He wasn't going to pick himself. I get it. When he was asked to be the captain, he was brought here to be the captain. That was his job. And you can say what you want, but there's no way that he could do his best job possible at being the captain if he also had the added stress of playing as well. So he opted not to pick himself. Colin Morikawa is the main one where I'm like, what are we doing here? I don't get that. Morikawa has not played good golf down the stretch this year on the PGA Tour. I get he's played in these events before, and with 4 rookies on the team, that is probably intriguing. That's probably why he is here. Because the guy that I wanted was Chris Gotterup, who really just came on the scene at the end, and he's just a dog. And you saw him really compete really well, played really well over in Europe, the Scottish Open and the British Open there as well. So he's a guy that I would have picked over Morikawa, but I get it. Keegan probably didn't want to have 5 rookies on this team. Mind you, there's only 12 spots, so he goes with Morikawa. Don't feel great about that. We'll see how Colin plays. Justin Thomas, another captain's pick. He's built for these types of moments as well. When you look at the guys that are really going to have to play really well for Team USA, is Scheffler, Schauffele, DeChambeau, and Thomas are the 4 guys that they got to play well. All right, and then hopefully you can get a lot out of some of the newer guys or whatever, but you can't be like, Russell Henley, he got in on points, right, his first time. J.J. Spawn nails at the U.S. Open, first Ryder Cup. You just don't know what you're going to expect with those guys. The guys that have been there and have the ability to compete at a high level, Scheffler, DeChambeau, Schauffele, and Justin Thomas have to carry the load this week, and hopefully you get some help beyond that. Certainly going to need help beyond that, obviously, as well. Going to be fascinating to see how Keegan Bradley handles his pairings and what exactly he does as the weekend progresses. Team Europe, they're loaded. Team Europe is absolutely loaded. There are no 2 ways around it. Rory McIlroy, obviously, is their guy. Rory McIlroy was talking, right? He's going to continue to talk. What was he saying after Rome? He's like, yeah, we're celebrating this, but we're going to come to Bethpage in a couple of years, and we're going to win there too. He said one of the only boxes now after winning the Masters that he wants to check off is winning an away Ryder Cup. And I can't stress to you how difficult it is to win an away Ryder Cup. That's something that Rory's trying to do. And shoot, he's got the team to do it. Robert McIntyre, he's got experience. Tommy Fleetwood, he just broke through and won the FedEx Cup, right? The knock on him is, he's always in contention, but he can't finish. He, by the way, has always been a good Ryder Cup player. Well, now he's got the confidence of winning the FedEx Cup. Look out for Tommy Fleetwood. Justin Rose, kind of an ageless wonder. That guy's got some feistiness and a nastiness about him. He loves competing in these team events. He's getting up there in age, but he finds himself continuously in a spot where he can compete. He also recently won a PGA Tour event. Rasmus Højgaard is their only rookie. He was with the team and around the team a couple of years ago in Rome, but now he's playing. He's really the only wild card where it's like, we don't know exactly what we're going to get from him. Tyrrell Hatton, he's playing really good golf. He was in the mix late, right? He was in the mix at the U.S. Open when J.J. Spawn won. He's a hothead. He gets heated, but maybe that's the energy they need in a Ryder Cup. We will see. Those are their automatic qualifiers, and these captain picks are loaded as well. Shane Lowry, he's great in Ryder Cups. He's got the camaraderie and the ability to really play well with guys like Rory and Bobby Mack and Fleetwood, right? John Rahm, that's a captain's pick. Live guy, but, John Rahm plays good in these Ryder Cups. Scotty Scheffler, by the way, has had his number, so looking forward to, that potential matchup if we see that. Sepp Straka, he's played really good golf. Ludwig Oberg, great player, great young player. People believe he's kind of that next guy where it's like he's going to win a major at some point. When's it going to happen? Victor Hovland, very much an up-and-down year. He's been great in Ryder Cups. Matt Fitzpatrick, major champion there as well. He was in the mix, late in the FedEx Cup there as well. So lots of really good players. This Team Europe is loaded. They're the underdogs in this, and I'm not ever going to sit in here and say you should bet on Team Europe. I am an American. I'm a proud American. I'm a true American. I'm pulling for the USA. But I'm worried, to be completely honest with you. Obviously, it's home. People don't understand how big of a advantage it is to be on your soil for the Ryder Cup. It is a massive advantage, and the U.S. had that. But it's all about, matching it and, showing up in the moment. This is a big moment for Keegan Bradley as it relates to his legacy. Obviously, he's a major championship. Obviously, this kind of second part of his career has been really good. He's picked up some wins there as well. Keegan Bradley, he's an East Coast guy. Bethpage, obviously, East Coast. He needs to win this. He needs to lead this team to victory. Zach Johnson a couple of years ago was a horrible captain. All right, I have a full belief in Keegan Bradley, but he's got an uphill battle. You could argue he's got the worst team, and obviously he has less experience than Europe does on their side as well, but it's going to be awesome. Starts tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Hopefully Team USA hoisting that trophy on Sunday. I love talking golf. Looking forward to continue doing it. But Ryder Cup, going to be awesome. That starts tomorrow. All right, got about 8 minutes left here on the show, and it is time for our best bets of the weekend. So I've gone back and forth about this. You know, you have some people that do this, and they're like, well, I'll put 3 units on this and then 1 unit on this. I'm not doing that. That's just too much. Right? I'm just doing straight picks, and then each thing you can do whatever you like. 1 unit is what I would recommend. Do I like some of these plays more than others? Yeah, but that's just kind of, where we're at with this. We've done 6 bets week 1 and week 2. We're doing 6 again this week. We'll see if I pivot off that at some point. We're 5-7 on the season. Should be 6-6. Had the Rams plus 3.5. Anyone watched that game last week? That is the most devastating loss when it comes to gambling that you could possibly have. But here we go. I like the road teams a lot this week. I like the road teams a lot. 2 NFL, 4 college football. Let's get it going at my best bets of the weekend. Texas A&M. Previewed them earlier in the show. They are hosting Auburn, only laying 6.5 points. Have the week rest. Obviously, they beat Notre Dame. They were off. Auburn had to go to Oklahoma and lose in heartbreaking fashion. They get a couple of calls that go against them. The officials, by the way, have come out and said those calls were messed up, so that's got to be incredibly frustrating. The last thing you want to be doing if you're Auburn is looking in the rearview mirror when you got to go to College Station and play a very formidable opponent in Texas A&M. Marcel Reed is unbelievable with his legs, but that passing game has really opened up for Mike Elko. That has been impressive to watch there as well, and that receiving core for Texas A&M. Have been really, really impressed with them. Mario Craver and KC Concepcion. Again, not going to say they're Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith, but they're one of the best wide receiver duos in college football. They're really, really good. 7 points obviously wins it at minus 6.5. I like the Aggies. 3:30 game. Not quite, College Station at night, but that's going to be a packed-out stadium. 100,000 plus people are going to be absolutely going crazy for Texas A&M. It's going to be a difficult environment for Auburn, right? They just gave up 10 sacks last week against Oklahoma. It's going to be loud. They're going to be disoriented along their offensive line. Jackson Arnold is not better than Marcel Reed. Marcel Reed clearly the superior quarterback in this game, and Mike Elko clearly the superior head coach over Hugh Freeze. I'm laying the 6.5 and taking Texas A&M. LSU. On the road at Ole Miss. Said it earlier in the show, I don't get why LSU is an underdog in this game. And usually when you have that type of situation and you're talking about gambling, that's not a good thing because Vegas usually knows something that you don't, and you usually are going to lose that bet. But I'm going to fall right into the trap here, and I'm taking LSU plus 2.5. The Ole Miss, I think they're borderline fraudulent. They credit to them. They beat Arkansas and Kentucky, but they messed around with them a little bit. Lane Kiffin, I get he's got a Kentucky problem, but Kentucky is one of the worst, if not the worst team in the SEC. And that defense for Ole Miss, not very good. Now I understand the offense for LSU has significantly underperformed. They haven't been able to run the football. I think that changes this week. You're going to see them have a more balanced attack offensively. I think Garrett Nussmeier protects the football and makes some really good throws in the game. I think LSU wins outright, but I'm going to take the points plus 2.5. Give me the LSU Tigers going in to Vaught Hemingway Stadium at Ole Miss and defeating the Ole Miss Rebels in that game. Alabama, Georgia. Alabama travels to Athens in between the hedges. Spent time earlier in the show talking about, Georgia doesn't lose at home. 33 consecutive wins at home for Georgia. They haven't lost a game at home since before COVID, which is 2019, which is quite some time ago. Kirby Smart has a bit of an Alabama issue. 1-6 against Alabama as the head coach of the Georgia Bulldogs. Obviously, the one is a really big one because it was a national title game. First time he gets Alabama in between the hedges. Always been a neutral site game or in Tuscaloosa. He finally gets them in Athens. He's got a really good team. But Ty Simpson, I said it before the year and I'm saying it right now, he was not the reason they lost against Florida State, and he has been the hottest quarterback in the country the past 2 weeks. Kirby Smart said that at the podium earlier this week. He has to be really, really good for Alabama to win this game and or cover the spread. Has to be really, really good. If he goes, turns the football over, careless with the football, and does not play well, they will lose and probably lose by double digits. But I am betting on Ty Simpson in this game. I think he is a far superior quarterback to that of Gunnar Stockton. Kalen DeBoer has had massive issues on the road. He's got to get that fixed. He has to get that fixed. His teams don't even look close to how they look at home on the road. All the losses at Alabama have been on the road, and there's been some really ugly performances on the road, even games in which they have won. He's got to get it turned around. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a crazy environment. The offensive line was suspect. So I've got my questions on Kalen DeBoer and whether or not he can get his team in a spot to do it. But I've got a lot of confidence in Ty Simpson. The Georgia football team is better than they were last year, but this defense isn't a typical Kirby Smart defense. Yeah, they fly around. They've got great size, great athleticism. They make plays. But you saw Tennessee score lots of points against them a couple of weeks ago. I think Alabama will score lots of points to them as well with Ty Simpson. Don't know if Alabama's going to win the game outright, but I have them covering plus 3.5. Also taking another away team in Happy Valley this week. I think Oregon's got the better team. I think they got the better coach. I think Dan Lanning, I said Ryan Day is the second best coach in college football at this point. I think Dan Lanning is right there looking to overtake Ryan Day at that spot. And this is a game that Dan Lanning, his teams win this type of game. I think they're going to be more physical than James Franklin. I think they've got the better quarterback in Dante Moore. I think the run game of Oregon is going to help them ease into the game and going to create a little bit less pressure on Dante Moore. And James Franklin just can't get over the hump. I think Drew Aller is borderline fraud. He has lots of great traits, but he hasn't proven he can win these top of the line games, matchup type games against really good teams. I think Oregon covers the spread, and I also think Oregon wins the football game as well on the road against Penn State. So those are our 4 college football plays. Now 2 more in the NFL. Sunday Night Football, Green Bay at Dallas, taking another road team here this week, which obviously on the road, particularly with college football, cause for concern there, but here we are. We're doing it anyway. Dallas, their whole DNA this year after trading away Micah was, we need Dak Prescott to be really good and we need CeeDee Lamb to be really good. Dak Prescott has been sensational. I don't care about, the stat line that you saw in the Bear game. Dak Prescott has been really, really good this year. One of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. I'm not saying he's one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. I'm saying he's playing at it this year, this season. He loses CeeDee Lamb. He's going to be throwing to, Jalen Tolbert and Ferguson and, Cavante Turpin and George Pickens. Like, that's tough scene, really tough scene. They've got issues running the football as well, and that defense very well could be the worst defense in the National Football League. Green Bay just lost to Cleveland. They're going to be coming in there ticked off. Green Bay absolutely owns the Dallas Cowboys as well. Jordan Love is going to be slinging it all around against that defense. Again, that Cowboy defense is awful. I'm laying the 6.5 points on the road. Give me the Green Bay Packers, and candidly, I don't think that one will be very close. And then technically not a weekend game, but the first Monday Night Football game. This one kicks off at, I believe, about 7 o'clock. Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets, 2 winless football teams, 2 really bad football teams, and not always a good idea to bet on a game where you have 2 really bad teams playing, but that's what we're going to do here. Miami, I think a lot of people expected them Thursday night to go into Buffalo and get the doors blown off them. That did not happen. They competed in that football game against, many people would argue, the best team in the National Football League. Played solid in that game. Tua had the late interception, but beyond that, he played solid in the game. There was questions on whether or not the team would quit on Mike McDaniel. That clearly did not happen. Lots of backups defensively for Miami, and they hung in there against Buffalo. I think they're a better team than the Jets. I think it's a game that Mike McDaniel and Tua absolutely have to win, avoid 0-4. I think they got better players. Quarterback questions, obviously, for the Jets. Miami is at home. Prime time, I think you see them play well in the game and cover -2.5 against the Jets. One more time, A&M -6.5 at home against Auburn. LSU +2.5 at Ole Miss. Alabama +3.5 at Georgia. Oregon +3.5 at Penn State. Green Bay -6.5 at Dallas. And Miami -2.5 at home against the Jets. 4 away teams that we are betting on, and 2 home teams. 5-7 on the year, looking to improve that record, at least get back to even, or hopefully send it in the right direction there as well. All right, that'll do it for this week on the Stone Shield Show. Appreciate everybody that tuned in. As always, week 3 in the books here at the show. Don't believe anybody will be hosting my show tomorrow. If somebody is, that would be a pleasant surprise, but you'll at least get 1 hour of programming tomorrow on Off the Bench. Podcast will go up shortly. Wherever you get your podcasts, iHeart, Spotify, Apple, it will be up there. There will be clips on our YouTube page, segments on our YouTube page that will go up later today, and also a couple on Friday and over the weekend as well. Be on the lookout for those. You'll see more social media clips in the future there as well. And I'm looking forward to certainly next week. No show tomorrow for me. Off the Bench still here, but we will be back next week with a full slate of programming, hopefully talking about the Reds in the postseason, or the Reds, as they're going to compete against, the Pirates here in 40 minutes, and then obviously the Brewers after that. Hopefully we're talking about Reds postseason baseball. We'll still talk about the MLB playoffs a little bit. If not, hopefully talking about a Ryder Cup win as well. And, of course, we will preview Bengals and Broncos on Monday Night Football as well, coming your way on Monday. But that'll do it for me this week. Appreciate everyone as always, and have a great weekend, everybody. Go Reds.